Love. Okay. I wanted to check if I could charge. I'm on live now, by the way, so careful.
I'm getting away from you.
Yep, I'm good.
Is it charging?
It's charging.
Can I show you something really cool real quick?
What? But on
Let me
this.
show you. I know. Let me show you something really cool. You can do. Where is that? Don't put me in here. No, that's not it. That's if you want to do questions, like if people have any questions, right? And then there is a tool. No, that's not it. Oh, damn. Why is it not coming up on yours? You guys could have posted the poster on here. Oh, here it is. Maybe this one. Where's the poster? Right here. You want to post it?
Like this at the background?
For right now.
Okay.
Until he joins.
Okay. Cool. You know.
Alright, how do I actually...
And.
No.
Oh, no, cancel.
There you go. Teaching you, I know these things. Wait, and then pin. Go back. Pinned it.
Okay, wait. Welcome.
Double click it.
Pin.
What thing are you on?
What do you mean, what email?
What are you hosting from?
What do you mean?
It's not your account.
It's not my account. No, it's not my account. It's EIE. It's another, it's another, yeah.
Do you know how to invite him?
No. How does it work?
Is he in the room?
Yeah, I can see he's joined. Oh, I need to search Bosun. Okay. Yeah.
I hate your phone.
1 second.
How do you collapse here? There you go. Go down. Yep.
Yeah?
Yep. Just gonna send him
A request. You think he was invited?
somebody's maybe it's calling.
How come there's no feedback?
Oh, is this your internet? Hold on.
Oh, my internet is good.
That's why I was trying to try it on here. What is your what's it called? And I can tell you. What is the...
EIE Nigeria. Yeah, that one.
Did you do it?
Yeah.
Yep.
What were you
Hey,
looking for?
you know now, but so I'm new to this team. Eh? This is my first. They're always inviting me. This is the first one I'm hosting, so you people will forgive me.
I can see. I can see.
There's nobody that can claim to be an expert here.
I can see Madame trying to bail you out, and I'm like,
Yeah. My wife is the one that lives in this world, so she does not to bail me out. Now, how far?
well, anyways,
How
we're
you doing
here.
now?
I'm
Yeah,
good. Good to see you, man. I've not seen your
yeah.
face in how many days now?
Exactly. I've been like, you look good, oh man.
You go.
I'm looking good on you, bro.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Yeah. We're just here. We're in Lagos. We're just chilling, trying our best. But I think it's going to be fun. I've been preparing. I have plenty of questions for you. You're not getting up. I warned you.
It's me and you. I don't have to answer the question. I don't have to answer the question. It's you.
Now. We have time. Everybody on this call has plenty time. If you have time, you can clap. You can just claps. You can you can keep us going, man.
I'm sure
but seriously, it's going to be a serious conversation, but it's also going to be about, I keep saying it that, I mean, I founded two large companies and everything, but the days of my own history that I cherish the most were the days that we used to walk from Paco bus stop to CC Hub. And in CC Hub, we'll get food, we'll get access to internet. So for me, it's like if there was no CC Hub, all these fancy life, Andela, Flutterwave, nothing like that. And it's so funny how many times that I keep meeting people who've also benefited from your mentorship. So I think the first thing we want to say is thank you so much on behalf of the entire ecosystem. Whether they agree or they don't agree, that was their business. Thank you so much for everything you've done for tech. But the funniest thing now is that we're about to triple your work. Because as we go into this new phase, it's about to become crazy. It's one thing for you to be warning people, hey, tech is coming, this is happening, this is going to happen one day. And then all of a sudden, we're now in the thing, and we're like, wow, this wasn't as much fun as I imagined it. So thank you, and God will help you for what is coming next. So
absolutely, I think the thank you you're saying, it's also probably we in a way, I think people like myself were grateful for folks like you, because what you guys did, your own generation, yourself, all your co-founders at Andela, even your co-founder at Flutterwave, Shola, Mr.
Yeah.
I can't call all these guys. I think what you guys did was to give some sort of validation. We came into the market to build the platform, the backbone, and the awareness of what we think needs to happen. And I think a lot of people always misunderstand that. For people like myself, it's not really about building businesses. For us, building empires that make tons of cash. That naturally will come along the line. For us, it's always been about the fact that we saw that technology was already shaping our world in ways that will become a major challenge for the world, but also for the country as well. And we figure that for countries like Nigeria to take advantage of that, there's certain backbone that you need to put in place. For that to happen, for you to enable that. And I don't think the work has not been done. So finding people like yourself to come and give that validation, it's a huge part of the process.
Absolutely. And we do this work also because, I mean, as we see it as an intergenerational effort, right? To build solid technology ecosystem for Nigeria. I remember back in those days, the question we would always ask, or you would always ask us, how can technology change Nigeria? And for us, we're still on that journey. We're now at the cusp of the change, which is why we're having this conversation. For those of you back home, we're having a conversation about how tech life is the new normal. And this is not just going to be your normal chat. What we're really trying to do is really get into a deep conversation about tech about the citizens' responsibilities, about opportunities that tech will bring, about even dangers that tech will bring. And then also focus this on people like Bosun, who are, I would say, the foundation of the ecosystem we have today, and who can basically chart a path for us and tell us what's happening next. So for those of you, that's the podcast you're on, or Instagram Live, sorry, you're on. You can see I'm new to this. So just FYI. But I'm going to start with one question that's very personal. You know, we talk every day. Although I've not seen you in a while, but I always chat with you, always asking you questions, always challenging thoughts, and also receiving challenges about different thoughts. And not many people know this about you. You're a man of mystery. That's one of the funniest things. There's no complete profile of Bosun online. I want to do a quiz one day. Well, how much do people know about Bosun? But people don't know that you're a traditional Lagos boy, and that your father actually was one of the people who innovated agege bread. So, I mean, you told me a story one time about agege bread, and I really want you to share that story, because, and also to tell us, in telling us that story, how you got into this world of innovation. Because I see the work you do not as just tech. People like me do tech, and we do tech because we want to make money, partly, right? But people like you do innovation work, the deep work that most of us are even afraid to do. So tell us about your journey into this world of innovation, and how watching your father do agege bread really shaped your approach to tech and innovation.
No, absolutely. I won't dwell too much on the agege bread bit, so that we don't spend the entire time talking about that. But I was actually born into a proper agege bread bakery in Agege, a street called still there, called Oredapo. That's where I was born, and our bakery was actually situated in the same compound. So I grew up there. You know, I eat bread probably every day. Different version, though, not the type that everyone eats. we had the chance to bake our own in different shapes. You know, mostly animals. You know, so I grew up there, and I saw the trajectory of the development of that whole, you know, what you may call, which I think is innovation as well. You may actually call it innovation in a way. The traditional agege bread started off with the traditional way of baking. So it's your, you know, the mud oven. Yeah. That's what they used to use for agege bread back in the day. So you had so many of those clusters in agege making this bread. It became popular because what they would then do is, once they make their bread, they weren't really selling in agege. So they'll put it in downfall boxes, and they'll take them to places like Ilasa, Mushin, Ojeleba, and all those hot spots. You know, and that's where people came to buy the bread. And that's how come the bread literally traveled around the whole of Lagos and became a well-known brand. You know, but there were people who then came after that, like Ayokunu, for instance, who came, and what they did to it. So a lot of people, when they talk about agege bread, they always actually reference Ayokunu. But what Ayokunu did was they brought in the modern oven. So, you know, the electric oven. And most of them then did so using funding from the government. So when we talk about government funding at times, it's always good and bad. But you can see how government funding can be used to enable a particular industry. It has its own strong use. So they came into the market, and what they did was to actually take agege bread, and they started making sliced version of it. So the bread now traveled even further into you know, all sort of places. It became really well known from that. Unfortunately, quite a number of those guys didn't survive because they couldn't pay back the loan. So unfortunately, quite a number of them didn't survive. But agege bread is still what it is today. So for me, I grew up in that setting where there's always a project at home every weekend. Like, this is one thing I remember about that. There's always a project. Even the oven, right? We used to, you know, we'll get mud and we'll mold. We have molds at home, and we'll put it in and we'll make the bricks ourselves at home. So we live between Lagos, Agege, and Abeokuta. So we have, you know, a sizable place in Abeokuta where you know, I did my secondary school. So we actually were making out the bricks ourselves. We make the bricks in Abeokuta, we transport them to Lagos whenever we need to change them. So that exposed me a lot to innovation. But I always tell this story which even to myself, I don't know how credible it is. As young as 10, I used to tell my dad that
Hello? Oh no, I hope you haven't lost him. It has to be our internet here.
that's when this story. So for me, it's always been part of me trying to find that way to try and tweak and change things a little. And you know, most of my friends and people that I've interacted with over the years will probably attest to this. When I did my first degree, for instance, in are we still there? Can everybody see us? Someone says they lost.
Everybody can see us. Well, you're back. You're back. We lost you for a split second, but you're back.
Oh, sorry, guys.
It cannot be your internet.
No, it's not impossible. Don't trust these things. Don't trust it. So you know, I did my first degree, for instance, at I did diploma in computer science, then BSc economics at University of Jos. So I spent quite a bit of time in Jos, and that's where it all started for me. You know, I became the president of ISEC, which is a student exchange organization. You know, then subsequently I had the opportunity to leave Nigeria for Switzerland, where, you know, I had a fantastic job. I worked for Hewlett Packard HP, but at the same time, my job was also connected to the International Trade Center. And back then, what I was doing in 2004 was actually trying to find ways to engage farmers in specific countries in Africa to use the internet to sell. You can imagine this, 2004, internet was just coming to Africa. So I did a lot of work in Kenya, in Uganda, Ethiopia, in Ghana, actually. I did some work in Ghana as well. And that was how I got into proper mainstream tech application. Even though before living in Nigeria, I also worked for a company called Delivery King. Delivery King back then was the first company to try meal delivery in the country. So we signed up a number of you know, fast food outlets where people could order. But then it was mainly guys from places like what you now call Accenture, you know, and all those consulting companies. I think it was Anderson something then that used to order from us, you know. So I did that as well.
In Nigeria or in the UK or somewhere else?
No, this was actually in Nigeria, in Lagos, before I then left for Switzerland to work for HP and International Trade Center. Then from Switzerland, I moved to the UK, went to work, studied information systems and management. I worked for a small, you know, it's not a small consulting company with about 800 people. Innovation consulting in itself is quite small. It's not that big. So what I used to do was help universities across Europe to find funding for academic research. And at the same time, we were working with them to also say, how do you commercialize research to benefit society? And man, that was where I discovered that there's no country in the world that will progress without prioritizing innovation. You know, people think innovation is the first word. It is not. Innovation actually exists in even things like social science. It's not just in hard science, right? You can't do well in your agri sector, transportation sector, even in governance if you don't prioritize innovation. And it was quite painful. So I decided to return to Nigeria, and I wanted to start what people now call fintech. That was where we were going to start. So we started talking to a lot of the banks. Bank PHB happened to be, I think this was in 2008. They happened to be this somewhat highly innovative one back then. They had a program, an internship program that, you know, Kathleen Dogmo was part of that program. So, you know, we got talking to them, you know, we created some solution for them. And the solution was mainly looking at how do we help them use the knowledge of their employees who speak to customers on a daily basis to better innovate. Because banks then and still now will tend to push their employees for targets, right? They don't actually engage them to say, how do we innovate to better serve the customers that we to go bring. So that was what I wanted to do then. But you know what discouraged me? I realized that most banks, their innovation manager or innovation unit was situated in their corporate social responsibility.
Oh, wow.
CSR, you know what CSR is? That how can you put your most valuable assets in CSR? You know, so I got really discouraged, and I figured that what we needed to do, and you know, fortunately for me, Femi and I, we have been talking way back then as to what we can return back to Nigeria to do, and we said we're going to build a platform that will enable innovation. And you know, people will ask us back then, how do we intend to measure the work that we do? And I'll tell them that, you know, my hope is that innovation will become mainstream, and they will look at me like, you know, what is that? It will become mainstream. It will become the only way that we go about solving problems, you know, in Nigeria.
Here we are.
That's a long, you know, mid to long version of the story.
Yeah. I mean, that's an amazing story. But it really gives us a sense of where your interest in innovation is coming from, and why, you know, and why it makes so much sense, your approach to innovation. So I have another question. So we've talked a lot now. You know, today we had a discussion as usual, and we talked a lot about tech and the opportunities that this life brings in. Now, you know me, I'm the ultimate pragmatist. Also, I'm the ultimate optimist. So all I see is opportunities. But you know, as we've had this conversation, you've talked about the fact that this is not the first time that we're having opportunities like this. We've actually had other opportunities that have missed it, and that perhaps maybe we come at this from the point of view of responsibility. I want you to talk about that, about what we've experienced before in agric. Based on your experience now, I understand where that's coming from, because I didn't know that about you. Every time we talk, I learn something new. In energy, in oil and gas, in talent. Like, we've missed it before. What will make this time different?
Well, I don't know. I think what's going to make it different, in my personal opinion, is that we have to be responsible. So as much as we see opportunity, we also then need to think of responsibility. And responsibility is something that, you know, in this conversation, we can break it down. And you know, the reason behind that is, guys, there's no, you know, gainsaying in this. It's not because we love technology. Technology is here to stay, and the new normal is going to be determined and dictated by technology. There's nothing anyone can do about that. So what just happened in the last couple of months is that over the last 10 years, those who invest in the future of technology have been investing heavily in some deep tech, but yet they were struggling to find real application for those deep tech in the last 10, 15 years. And a lot of those technology became really mature in the last 2 to 3 years. Right? You know, things like augmented reality, which, you know, proper connectivity will now make happen. The application of data is getting way really smarter. Automation as well. There's a lot of advancement in automation, you know, that is now moving. IoT is even probably the biggest area, you know, Internet of Things. The advancement in that space is crazy. But that space has been begging for application over the last few years, but no one is going into that for so many reasons, you know, for so many reasons. And what just happened in the last 2 months is that a pandemic happened that gave the license to technology companies to go out and execute and implement without barrier. None whatsoever. Guys, you know, people don't understand what we're talking about here. Like, so yesterday, when I went to F8 last year, you know, they gave out the Oculus to everyone. I got my Oculus. It's been lying around at home. My kids, they play with it whenever they like. But I just started thinking that, imagine if I could actually box with Oculus. You know, this would be a great way to exercise. And I went on Oculus and I found tons of apps for boxing. I bought the cheapest one, put it on, and I started boxing. Dude, in like 7 minutes, I was sweating much more than I was sweat if I do a 5K. No, I'm not.
I find my Oculus from last year.
I was sweating. So this is
somebody.
No, you need to go and find it. This is a technology that I'll be absolutely reluctant to use. Not because of anything, but I just don't see the need for it. But now I can see the daily usefulness. Imagine how we're now putting our kids in front of computers to learn.
Yeah.
Like a lot of parents won't do that, you know. Now, you know, I run STEM Cafe. We're doing virtual science discovery sessions. What parents will just do is put on the computer, log on to Zoom, and they'll leave the kids with the educator. The educator training kids in Nigeria is probably from Uganda. They don't know this person before. They don't know the record of this person, from nowhere. Yet they leave their kids. So the validation for technology that would have been really careful to use a month ago is now so huge that there's no barrier. Yeah. A good example is Zoom. Zoom before this pandemic had about 10 million daily users.
Yeah.
As of 4 weeks ago, Zoom was seeing over 200 million daily.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine. So in all of that, we will see opportunity, and this is what we know how to do in Nigeria. People will start to talk about building great stuff, generating value from it, adding value to the society. But what we don't consider is that for every opportunity, there's that element of preparedness that comes with your ability to take advantage of it. If you're not prepared, technology is not something that you just wake up and say, everyone wants to use tech, we'll start to build. It really doesn't work that way. I've done this before. I've bootstrapped this and I've seen it happen before. You can build a technology that people would want to use, that people will accept, but that will not be able to support its users. Are we still there? I think I lost you.
No, I'm here. I'm still here.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm still here. I'm sorry.
So there's a great element of it that is linked to preparedness. And that preparedness comes from a place where people accept responsibility. And you can see from things like the oil and gas industry, for instance. Nigeria has only been strong around just cashing out, right? We take and sell. We just make the money and spend. As a big player in that space, you can't point at any major innovation that is coming out of Nigeria as to the future of energy. Like, how do you comprehend that? You make so much money from something, but you invest little to nothing into the future of that thing. Think about it. The other thing with Africa is agriculture. Imagine the good arable lands that we have across the continent. Africa should be feeding the world. But the reason why we've missed that opportunity is because we didn't invest, we didn't take responsibility for the opportunity. Cocoa is a great example. When I went to Geneva and I worked with ITC for a while, I saw that Nigeria, for instance, was one of the highest producers of good ginger, right? We were one of the highest producers of ginger or cashew, one of the two, I think ginger or cashew. But at the same time, Netherlands, that wasn't even a major producer, was one of the highest exporters of that same.
It's the same story with palm oil, right? Palm oil was in Malaysia, right? We didn't take care of it.
And
Malaysia is a global leader. We're just there.
Absolutely. So that's where we are with tech. As much as we see opportunities with tech, we need to understand that what we're doing with tech right now is we're faffing around. A few people like yourself are building good stuff, making money out of it. But in terms of really, really using it to leapfrog development on the continent, to capture value for Nigeria, we're not doing enough at all. We're not doing enough. And it's going to be the same with tech. If we're going to do anything with this tech, we have to do it. And that responsibility will come from two key areas. One is on the side of the private sector, what you call the industry. The industry needs to start thinking more as a collective. There are certain things that we need to be responsible for to unlock, widespread application of tech to the stage where it will bring value. For me, this I'm a strong believer that how much money you raise as a startup is not what determines whether you're successful.
I agree. Completely.
We've seen startups that raise $100 million and will still die. That doesn't change anything. And for me, where I sit, my thinking with tech is always about, will it trickle down? How can this change our society? This is my personal take on tech. That's how I look at tech. And I think as an industry, we need to be thinking that way. I don't think we're currently that responsible as an industry. The other side is...
What do we need to do, before you move on to the other point we're going to make, what specifically for tech do you think private sector in tech or outside of tech needs to do to make sure that we take advantage of this crisis, of the opportunity that's around us.
I like to use examples, right? So a great example, for instance, is the massive divide that we're beginning to see in education. Since all this started, you have kids with access to internet, access to loads of materials that they would never even have access to in school. So they are home, but it took their parents a week or two to adjust and start to encourage them to learn in really smart ways. But on the other hand, you have kids whose parents don't even have a smartphone, or even when they have smartphone, they can't pay for data, right? Those kids are not benefiting. And if tech is going to scale, great example, Facebook. My mom is on Facebook, and there were so many local apps that I've worked on that my mom never got on. Not because they're not useful for her, but because the way we build, we don't have the infrastructure that can support us to reach people. So you going back to the education example, I don't see a reason why almost 5-6 weeks into this pandemic, we've not forced either the telcos or government to zero-rate education apps. I absolutely don't see the reason. It's not about one company or two companies doing it. For me, it doesn't work that way. This is the opportunity to almost make sure that the whole of Nigeria can have access to all the essential EdTech applications in the country. Zero-rate education, we need it.
But so you probably say this when you talk about the next thing, but it requires some kind of public sector leadership, because if I do it... Absolutely, which is where the second part of the responsibility then lies, right? We need to also realize that if we continue to elect leaders who can't help us understand how to move our society forward as a people, we'll be in trouble. We will be in total trouble. Like right now, what the conversation we're having now is something that should be done in a matter of hours. The courage to do has to be there on the side of the leadership. Leaders need to see that their kids are home, they are not learning. What's the big deal in that? Why can't we zero-rate education up so that people can get on these things and kids can begin to learn? So leaders need to take responsibility. And the reason why leadership is also quite key, even on the public sector side in this case, is that the technologies that we're onboarding now, because they're also monsters for data, right? They eat data. Yeah, they do.
The implication is that our societies were going to become really porous. The competitiveness of nations will be based around data. We've already seen it, but it's going to be even heavier right now. The competitiveness of nations.
Let me introduce an angle to this, right? So I'm having a chat with my friends at SpaceX the other day, and they're saying, look, guys, we have this thing called Starlink. We're going to be able to beam you like internet. You don't need government to do that. What do you say to people who say that? Like, do you think that there's a way? Because look, the whole challenge with public sector, as you know, we've been on a journey in public sector before. Perhaps me more so than you.
Sure.
And we know what the challenges were. We're not going to rehash them on this call.
Absolutely.
And it seems like an impossible win, because the first question is, how do you help somebody who is blind to elect somebody who sees? It's not possible. So beyond what is possible there, what can we do? Because anytime the public sector question comes up, my eyes just go like, nothing's going to happen. The people who need to elect these people, they're not on this call. So what else can we do? How can private sector usurp the powers of government?
You know what? I hear you. That when we get to the conversation around public sector, we do feel that way. But also we're having this conversation on the platform of AIE, which I think is an organization that is done tremendous around opening things up. And I think the pain I feel when we talk about public sector in Nigeria is that unfortunately we're losing all the gains that we've made in the last probably 10 years in the country. Coincidentally, I think CCOP started almost the same year or a few months after EIE. There were a bunch of organizations that started around that same time.
No, you started in 2010. EIE probably started in 2012, around that.
Oh, really? Yeah. I thought okay,
or
interesting.
Maybe it was during the year at that time. You're right. You actually
it was about the same. It was about the same time because we collaborated from start.
Yeah.
So, and I think, when you talk about public sector and we feel that I think we also need to, pat ourselves in the back and just generally see where the gains that we've made. We lost a bit of it in the last couple of years, but I think there's been gains on that front. And part of what I say to people as well is that this pandemic, unfortunately, is one of the good ways to also demonstrate to our people that there's cost to electing the wrong people. Where the world is going right now, where everything is going to be based off tech, there's no room for sentiment, for random sentiment. It's going to be largely based on facts. It's going to be based on science to a large extent. It's going to be based on creativity. If you're still electing people who have the back that they're your tribe or from your religion or whatever you want to call it, I honestly don't think we're going to move forward. I think even people who do that in this era will start to suffer significantly. They're already suffering, I know, but I think the pain is going to become significant. And that's where we also have to task people like Iyin not to get tired, to continue to find ways to actually enlighten citizens. I think citizens need to start to engage in governance from a place of fact. When people come up to say, elect me as your leader, as your representative, conversation should be based on manifesto, not what you look like or where you're from or your tribe. We need to find ways to engage our people to make that switch. We've not been able to do that. How do we get people to look at elections from purely, manifesto perspective? What do you plan to offer? And when we elect our people as well, tracking their performance should also be based on, what they do for the people, their contribution to governance. It's almost like running a business, right? If I run CCO based strictly off sentiment, it will die. There's no conversation around it. If you set up any business and run it based on sentiment, hire the people that your tribe, people from your church and your mosque, it will die. It will die. So it's the same thing as the way we run Nigeria. So I think as against giving up, it's really about helping people understand that where we are right now, we can actually be part of it. And we've also seen it that it's not enough to say these old guards can hire new folks to come and help them. We've seen that it doesn't work.
No,
it doesn't.
Youth is not an automatic ticket.
No.
So one thing we talk about a lot, Bosun, we talk a lot about evidence in our conversations. I think every third sentence you say, "What's your evidence?" And what I want to ask is basically like, first of all, like, what has to change about our society's attitude to data and evidence? And what kind of people do we all have to be personally, professionally, and in our public life when it comes to promoting facts, evidence, science over people's feelings or faith or other things?
Dude, if I have the answer to that, I'll fix Nigeria tomorrow, but I'll try. I know why I say that. Technology makes it a lot easier for you to actually collect data. But at the same time, technology makes it a lot easier for you to manipulate. And the question you're asking is one of the reasons why I don't tweet or blog when I don't feel like there's evidence behind what I want to talk about. But at the same time, you find that there are so many people online who are good at communicating, and they can communicate their opinion in the way that you think that is fact behind. I think that in itself is quite dangerous, right? It's quite dangerous. But how do we move to the stage as a society where we pay more attention to how you can use data? It's been done. It's been done. So if you ask me, for instance, the future I see for CCL, it's actually not just in incubating startup. The future that I see for CCL is almost like an entity that is a think tank that puts resources and effort into building the foundation.
We have a question where we want to go in depth about that, honestly. But continue as much as you want, but just keep in mind that I have a whole question around what exactly is CC Hub.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, that's the same future that I see for organizations like AI, for instance. Again, I hope, I'm not responsible for this organization. Or say a budget, for instance. I think these are organizations. So when you look at the UK, when government comes up with a policy, right? It's based on, and they have proper ways of coming up, of drawing up their policy. There's almost always a parallel think tank that is not affiliated to the government, that is going to do all the necessary research in the world to help the public see whether that policy is going to make sense or not. And that entity is so bold and data and fact driven that they will engage the government, toe to toe, and show that what they're trying to put out there is rubbish and this is going to be the cost on society. If they do that to you as a government a couple of times and they can demonstrate that what you refuse to accept is failed the society, you can imagine how the public will feel. So my hope is that we can see more think tank organizations. It sounds like they just talk. They do much more than talk. I always refer back to EIA, and this is why I like the work that Yemi and the team is doing a lot. The fact that they're consistent with their approach. But my hope is that somehow, as a society, we can begin to fund organizations like this to become think tank. To become that alternative voice that can help dig out data and use data to back up, the work that we do as a society. I think that's the only way we're going to move forward. The developed world
keep it coming with the data, keep it coming with the evidence.
It's the only way.
Keep putting it in people's faces until they eventually see what kind of sense we're making.
It's the only way. It's the only way.
I agree with you. I agree. I mean, not to gloat, but there was a lot that was wrong about. There's a lot that was wrong about this particular government, and I think many of us tried to warn people that look, that things are challenging. We need to think differently about who we elect, and here we are. But we have to find more effective ways of communicating. Right? That's really what it is. And along those lines, one thought I have is, again, another conversation we've had quite a bit about, and it's really about making social impact in society. And this was a conversation we had a while ago, and it's not directly linked to tech, but it's also part of it, in the sense that, you always talk about this social innovators dilemma, which is, where do you spend your impact dollars and time, right? Like in light of this new tech life, in light of this new normal, what should people who are really passionate about making change do?
Absolutely. I think what I need to do is to have a lot more respect for technology and data. And I say technology, we all don't have to be heavy techies, right? We just all need to understand that technology is going to inform quite a lot. Technology will encroach whatever you do, whether you're in education, health, transportation, anywhere it will get in there in ways that we've never seen before, right? And what you tend to find, unfortunately, I'm not going to call names, but I know people that listening will probably relate to this. What I've seen, and I say this because it's also fact-based, right? Because CCO has always been strong on supporting social innovators from day one. We've seen some of the best social innovators in Nigeria. That's the honest truth. Pass through CCO, including yourself, even though you talk about it all the time. Amen. We've seen a lot of them, but one thing that I tend to see, and I'm happy to find people with resources to do more research on this. One thing I tend to see is that social innovators, because they're extremely passionate about society, when they start their entity, which is usually a social enterprise, a civil society organization, or even a for-profit entity that they believe will cause change, they get to a stage where they feel like they've done so much, but they see that the next level of opportunity to unlock the change that they want to see in society still needs to come from government. Then you start to see a situation where these guys get extremely tempted to actually be part of government. There's been a few cases where these people actually, depending on whether you're connected and you're happy to also compromise, they get in. Yeah, they get in. Well, if you're not happy to compromise and you don't have that much relationship with people that can actually take you in, you don't get in. So you start to see a lot of that frustration among such people. But also from what I've personally seen, even when they get in, the structure is not there to help them actually make the change that they want to see at the scale that they want to see. But what I've seen that is missing, though, is that there's hardly a social innovator that set out to build something that can't be built to scale and to an institution without going into government. There's none. There's none. Like CCO, a lot of people don't understand CCO. But if you want to know what's possible with CCO, I tell people there's an organization in the UK called Nesta, Nesta. We don't copy any of what they do, but there's nothing that we do at CCO that Nesta is not done. Though Nesta is an endowment, so there's endless fund of cash.
Who's going to give the endowment money?
Yeah, that's where the innovation needs to come from, right? That's where the innovation needs to come from, right? That's where it needs to come from. There's hardly a social innovator that can't find a similar entity somewhere in the world that needs to be done to scale. My biggest example is always budget, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me now we've perfected how to gather data, how to make sense out of data, and how to use data to inform citizens and even governments in Africa? Do you want to tell me that we've perfected the science behind that? Oh, no, we haven't.
We haven't. In fact, it's one of our questions here. You know, how would we do it?
That's the point. That's the point. So for me, for instance, like, I don't see the end of a budget, because that's an entity that I believe can still robustly grow.
But think about it this way. We know the kind of battles that we're facing. I'm going to give you a practical, real life example, because it actually came from one of the users, right? Okay. Yeah. I heard now that the Minister of Education has been appointed the Chief of Staff to President Buhari, right?
Fantastic. Yeah.
This is a very Nigeria-specific case, right? If a social innovator in education space, let's say Toyosi Akerele, or I don't know, somebody, right? I don't want to mention names, is offered the post of Minister of Education. Maybe she has ways to go, or whatever. Is your point, it probably makes more sense for her to keep doing what she's doing, or should she switch? Or I mean, what
that would be the ideal scenario. But how often do we see that in Nigeria? You know why we can't see it? In Nigeria, there's a thin line between politics and governance, right? For the folks in politics, right? Politics for them is government. That's why they do everything they do. Yeah. And that's why their supporters also support, because everything that comes with government is the reason why they go into politics. But governance is different from governments or even politics. Government is a subset of governance. This is where I'm coming from, right? It's different. Yeah, so because they will never, there's every likelihood that the next, Minister of Education is not going to be someone like that. The chances, maybe this pandemic will make it happen. Yeah. But we've seen it before that it will never be. It's about party loyalists, right? The people who did everything for the party to get the party to win. These are the people that get in there, whether they understand education or not. This is the status quo in the country. So what I mean by that is that dilemma is you always find those social innovators always consider, and it's not because they're greedy. People think it's because of greed. Mostly it's not greed. It's because they think to unlock the next level of change that they want to see in society, that they need to be able to switch it at the government level. But I think what technology is now bringing to the fore is, let's leave government out of it, because even government will come to beg innovators to help them figure the way out. Who is saving the world right now? Who's saving the world right now? Is it government?
Fair enough. So I have a question before we go to CCO, because I have a very specific question about CCO, and then we'll try and take some more questions, and then we'll go. So there are real questions to ask about technology infrastructure, right?
Sure.
Everybody's complaining about 5G, but we know that the vast majority of the population is still on 2G, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, 5G. What do we do about 5G? Right? We're not gonna ask if there's a relationship between 5G and COVID-19. We're not gonna do that rubbish.
I'll move on. I will answer you.
Hey, how do you know I got Pastor Chris? You have to answer me, and then, but more importantly, right? in thinking about the kind of technology infrastructure we have to invest in, what is our saving grace? We don't have a national broadband plan we're implementing. A lot of states depend on the revenue that comes from right of way. What's the way out? And they're even going to be broker because there's no more oil fac to distribute. So if you're the state governor, how do I come to you in good conscience and tell you, these people that are digging fiber in your zone, you get what I'm saying? Don't collect money from them, but you need to pay salaries.
No. Your question is actually quite loaded.
Yes.
It's loaded. It's loaded in the sense that the first part of it is almost like an answer to my statement around as much as there are opportunities, we need to also look at responsibility. That if we're not responsible, what's coming and what's already here with tech is gonna go like we've lost everything in agriculture and all that. That's how it's gonna go, right? But the second part, which is the question on how do you go meet a governor, we did it in Lagos State, in Yaba. We did with Toby Davis, right? With Baba, we put everything
that was
together.
good times now. That was good times. I'm talking about right now that next month. No allocation money, nothing is entering the account, nothing.
I think it's even in bad times that it's a lot easier to make this justification, in my own opinion. Because part of what they want to see, they want to see the money in their account, like you're saying, but they also know that if they don't fix the ordinary people on the street to a certain extent, if things become really, really it's gonna come back to bite them. This guy is not don't pretend like no. You know, there are people who were actively in politics can tell you the origin of you win. Right? You win. Those who know the origin of you win will know that as much as you think leaders don't care, they do. They have the intelligence to know when things will go really bad. They do have it at some level. So I still think what we tend to see, and the example of what we did with Fashola, with Tommy Davis is what I will always use as a great example. So what happened in that mix with Baba Tommy Davis, CCO, who else did you drag into? I think it was mainly those two organizations. Yeah, so I'm coming to that separately. So we actually went to Governor Fashola and said, something is brewing, and this was about 8 years ago in Yaba. Yaba is going to be one of the most organic tech clusters on the continent. And what you're going to see happen is a lot of inspiration, jobs, and things like that being created. And you can't really do that without doing. And we've been talking to Main One Cable Company, so with Ms. Opeke. And she's happy to, there was no proper business sense to lay fiber in Yaba. She's happy to lay fiber in Yaba. That all we needed to see was for the government to waive the right of way fee for Main One Cable Company to lay that fiber. And so the government was not getting money where they would typically get money. And it was actually quite competitive then because there's another company that was competing heavily with Main One. And that company, they had people in government. So it wasn't that straightforward.
I remember.
But we made the case. It was my co-founder. Exactly. It was my co-founder, Tunde Elesho, and Mr. Davis that wants to be Expo, Lagos State Expo. Did the presentation to Fashola and the team. And it got approved. But I'm talking to you about a deal that would typically worth millions of dollars, right? Yeah. And nothing, there was no single dollar that exchanged hands between any of the guys who worked on this.
Interesting.
So for me, I think this is where we always struggle. Finding people with passion who understand the long-term vision. And I always tell people that if you ask me what's one of my biggest achievements at CCO, I always tell people that it's that fiber. People don't understand why.
Oh, no, that fiber has changed about. You raise our property value and our rent.
It's changed. So you don't see the picture behind me. You know what that is?
Well, let me see.
That's about Macaulay Way.
Is that what? That's what?
That's about Macaulay Way.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's the church. Yeah, that's the church opposite CCM. That's the traffic.
I can't even recognize it.
Yeah, that's it. So this is something I'm extremely passionate and happy, to have had the opportunity to work on with, Tunde Elesho and Mr. Davis. So I think it's possible. I think there are examples, but the challenge is that the average business person would typically engage opportunities like this from what's in need for me as against what's in need for the industry. And it comes back to exactly what I was saying before, responsibilities. If we're going to make gains off this wave of new normal, industry will need to be responsible, government will need to be responsible. Guys, honestly, I know that we only have 10 minutes left. If we don't do this, have a few minutes. If we don't do this, Africa will continue to be a consumer, literally, of technology. And the bad side of technology is that there's too much data and intelligence going on around it. So you're not just consuming; people are actually also literally controlling you. That's the fact.
Yeah. Okay, one more question, and then I'm just going to try and answer and ask and see whether we can take some questions from the audience, and then
I can see your Cocoa Pops. What's happening to your Cocoa Pops?
Yeah, I see my Cocoa Pops. I'm sorry.
Is that more than me?
Yeah, more than me is. I'm trying to pull up the questions. Okay. So I think you've answered some questions. You've answered some questions around public-private partnership. No money will change hands. But I want to talk about the youth, right? So Canon Chukudi is asking, what is the role of the youth, right? What is the role of young people in scaling the continent in this new normal? Hello, Bosun, are you there? Hello? Hey, Bosun, you're back. Sorry.
It was me.
It was, I think it's you.
Okay, yeah. Well, everyone is on the internet now, so location is not.
Sorry.
So that question, if you're not careful, you answer it, it will sound like you're just playing to the gallery. But the honest truth, guys, is we're in a world that is going to be moving at a crazy pace. Whether people like it or not, by the time we're out of this, there'll be people that are going to be driven into poverty. That's the honest truth. Because their skills will not be relevant in the world that we're moving into. And if there are people that can almost immediately rejig and re-strategize to be part of the new world, it will be the young people. I think as much as we see limitations around us, as much as there's apathy, we know that the current crop of leaders may not lead us where we want to go, and they're not willing to give up easily. I think we still need to maintain hope. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay not to see, but we need to find ways to keep that hope alive for those that are coming after us. We're the ones that will do the work. So we all need to be building. Youth needs to be building, guys. You can, and don't tell me you don't know how to code. Do not say you don't know how to code. Some people need to ensure that we never ever import face masks again, from anywhere. It's as simple as something that basic. You can do it. We need to be building. And this is what I've always talked about. Building for us is not just about making money for yourself. It's about protecting our future. Yeah, it's about protecting our future. So this is not just about survival. We have to build. There's too many things that we need to build in Nigeria for the country to keep moving forward and to probably progress as well. Too many things, and no one is going to build it for us, guys. Netflix can build whatever they build, and we get excited. It works in Nigeria, but that doesn't mean it's the solution. The algorithm is still going to play whatever they want to play. It's still going to play, but you need to also build things that can serve our purpose, and we need to start to hone some of those things. Ownership is important. Ownership is important. So we have to build and hone. That's the way we protect the future. And
so the final thing, Bosun, finally, because we're going to need to close soon. I really want us to talk about what's next for CC Hub. We all know what CC Hub is, but I'm sure there is some confusion. Some people are like co-working space. Some people are like social impact. So quickly, what's next for CC Hub? We might have to start again, just because we have a few seconds, and I want you to really deal with this question. But what's next?
Sure.
What's next for CC Hub?
So what's next for CC Hub has always been, what's the goal or the plan for CC Hub? Nothing is really changing, but what's next for CC Hub is that we're ramping up in our capacity significantly. and that's what we've been focusing on. So even when you see the expansion, there's a part of that strategy that is tied to really strengthening our team and ensuring that we can do what we do in a very solid and impactful manner. That's really what we're doing, and that's what we want a situation where CCO can